Giles County Recovery Court is now in session. The Honorable H.B. Howard presiding. Be seated. Come to order, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see this room filled up and it not being a big case. I'm happy to see you all here. I want to welcome everybody to this joyous event that we have today. Things aren't always happy in this room. In fact, those of you who are here with me every day know that it's usually not a happy place. That's different today. Today it is a happy place, and that just goes to show you the power of perseverance and the power of the human soul at work. That's what we get to see today. I'm so happy and fortunate to have you all here with me to join me in the celebration of the graduation of Courtney Sniddo, Stephanie Calderon, and Brandon Williams. Everyone who is here to enjoy that, welcome. There's a few of you I want to thank particularly for being here. In front of me is our recovery court team, and without these folks, we wouldn't exist. These folks give of their time to us constantly. We deal with a lot of vexing issues, and I certainly rely on their wisdom, their collective wisdom, to make very difficult decisions. And they will tell you that the most common phrase that I say to them is, "I don't know what to do. Help me out." And they do. They help me. I want to thank Chris McCarney, our county administrator, for being here today. Mr. McCarney, at every time I come to him and ask for something, oftentimes ridiculous things, the first answer is yes. And he figures out how to do it on the back end. And I'm so fortunate to have him to work with, and we would not operate and exist without him. Mr. Belcher is here with him. That's his assistant. He's the assistant county administrator. Mr. Chittister is the county attorney, and he is very helpful to us in what we do in our mission. He's recently helped us with some complexities. Thank you, Mr. Chittister. And of course, keeping this room and this building inspected and together and operating is Mr. Mills. Thank you, Mr. Mills, for being here today. We're honored to have you. Mr. Wade, Mike Wade from the Community Services Board is here. Thank you for being with us. There's a couple of members of our team that I want to thank too for their perseverance, showing up and helping us. Everybody on the team is important and critical, but Ann Getty is a source of great wisdom to us. She has joined our team and really given us a new perspective on things. So Ann, thank you. Thank you for being here. You have been a blessing, especially to these folks that are graduating today. Kristi Williams is an integral part of our organization as well. She gives us advice on healthcare matters, but primarily just on straight common sense. And Kristi, I'm always so happy to see you in our meetings. And I see Mr. Dinger back there. And Mr. Dinger is our go-to in terms of not only locating sources of money when we need them, and grants and things of that nature, but he is also just so good-natured, and we love it when he comes around. I know that Judge Short is here. Judge Short, you recently started your own similar version of this, and you're pioneering that in the state. Thank you for coming over, and thank you for doing what we are doing, but much earlier in the process when it's really going to make a difference. You are one of the bravest people that I know. But today really is about celebrating our 3 graduates. There's certain things that we need to do before we begin that, and that's to pay some respect. And we'll start, if we could, with the pledge. And Deputy Galtier, could you lead us in that, please?
I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mullins, if you would perhaps lead us in some reflection and an invocation, please.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to develop relationships with these young men and women. Lord, thank you for the partnership that we've created with the other agencies and all the different facets of this team. Thank you for the wisdom you've given us. I ask that you continue to bless our program as we move forward and give us wisdom and guidance in directing our clients. But thank you most of all for your Son Jesus, who hung there on the cross for my sins, and for those who are willing to accept him as their Savior. For it's in his name I pray. Amen.
All right, I've got a quadruple threat on my team, and I'm going to let him take over here. Quadruple threat because he is a lawyer, a politician, a showman, and a magician. Who better to then lead us through this than our Commonwealth's Attorney, Mr. Willie?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. I won't go into all the details because I've had these discussions privately with our 3 graduates. But I will tell all of you here that the first time that I met each of our 3 graduates was completely unrelated to drug court. Well, today it comes full circle. We've got a couple of terrific speakers who are going to share some thoughts and put things in context and in perspective. But I want to say to all 3 of you, you have come through this program without letting the problems you were facing define you. You've used this program to redefine yourselves. The first person that is going to speak to you today is someone that I've known and worked with for over 20 years. And in her role as not just an assistant Commonwealth's attorney, but as someone who was willing to step up and literally be by your side as you hiked, as you ran, as you did things that you never thought were possible for you to physically tackle. She's been there, not just in the courthouse, but has spent a lot of time with you outside of court as well. So it's my distinct pleasure to turn the podium over to our Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney, Debbie Sifford.
Thank you. I don't know what I thought I knew what I was getting myself into when I said, can I say a few things? And then as I was preparing them, I'm kind of going through the empty nest syndrome because though I have no children that I gave live birth to, my son got married 2 weeks ago. My buddies from Recovery Court are graduating this week, and my nephew, the only one I have, is getting married next week, and all my children are flying the coop. So I'm very emotional from having that empty nest syndrome. I'm going to miss these folks greatly, and so please accept the fact that even though I have a lot of notes, it's large print because I can't see and read anymore, and it's not that long. I thought about a lot of titles to my remarks today, and the first one I came up was the top 10 things I learned from Recovery Court, but I have 12 things, so that wasn't a good title. The second title I came up with is the title that is appropriate for drug court, because it is everyone deserves a second chance, even when we don't know we need it. And then the real title of this talk, which is why I'm here as Debbie Sifford, citizen of Giles County, not assistant a Commonwealth's attorney, is because the real title is, be careful what you pray for because you might get that and more. And I'm sorry. I was hoping that would come till the end. In December of 2017, I half-heartedly prayed for a new mission in life, something to do. Maybe it was join the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or be a leader in some community organization. I prayed that prayer half-heartedly, kind of went on and did my business, and that was set aside. It was something I should do and I needed to do, but I wasn't paying a lot of attention. In February of 2018, everybody remembers the wonderful Couch Potato to 5K program. And at that point, when I heard about it, I was like, oh boy, they are in for a treat. Not we are in for a treat, but they are in for a treat. And I learned about it from one of the clerks who said, oh, you should have seen so-and-so's face when the judge talked about that program. Well, I thought about it and I said, who's more of a couch potato than me? So I started the Couch Potato to 5K program by telling one of the recovery court participants that I would help her and I would come if she would come. Well, we had the program. I came, she didn't. That was the end of it, or at least so I thought. And on April the 25th of 2018 at 1:54 in the afternoon, I got an email from Melinda Radcliffe. And I'm not going to read you the whole thing because it's really long, but the last sentence said, I would also like to ask if you would like to run or walk with me sometime in the afternoons when the race is over. And then it started, and I never looked back. Because since that time, we've done a lot more than just walk in the afternoons. We've walked, we've run, or as Mr. Chittister tells me, I shuffle. I've hiked, we've been out to eat, we've been to an outdoor drama, we went to the haunted house, we've been swimming, we've been to Williamsburg, we've been to the mall, and we've been to the lake. We've talked, some of what I'll let you know about, some of what I'll never repeat. We've laughed, we've cried, and we've had all kinds of good times together. They even endured a little scare while we were in Williamsburg, which I was trying to cover, but obviously did very poorly when I had a little incident with my blood sugar. But so far, it has turned out marvelously. So I want to tell you the top 12 things I've learned from Recovery Court, and to tell you that these folks are great teachers and that I can't thank them enough for what I have learned from them. The first thing I want you to know is that you learn so much more when you listen instead of when you talk. And because at the time this all started, I was the only one with a driver's license, I got to drive and I got to listen. And I can hear when I'm in the front seat, I can't hear when I'm in the back seat. So I got to hear all kinds of things. And the first thing that I learned from these young ladies driving around everywhere is that their belief is that everybody deserves a chance to be in drug court. This disease, this addiction, whatever you call it, is not a respecter of persons, and anybody can come prey to it at any time. So with everybody being victimized, everybody should have a chance to be able to recover. And it's funny because a lot of times they would start their discussions about new people joining our group with a lot of girl drama. You know how she is, what about this, what about that? I don't know if they'd fit in, I don't know if we'd get along. What about him? Who is he? Where'd he come from? But over the 18 months that I was with these young ladies, they always ended that conversation with, but they deserve a chance, we got a chance. I was the biggest skeptic probably because I didn't meet these people for the first time outside of the courtroom. I met them the first time when I prosecuted them, and I was like, there is no way these people are going to make this program. I'd say maybe 30 days, maybe 60 days. Do they really deserve a chance? Look where they came from. But I'm here to tell you that the biggest skeptic is now the biggest supporter. The second thing I've learned is they do have a chance to change. Recovery is hard, but they have remained sober. Their old life is over and their new life has begun. We don't know if they'll all make it or how long they'll make it, but what we have learned is that they finished this program and they didn't all do it in the same amount of time. And I think that's one thing our court system doesn't always give people is the time to get there on their schedule. We have a lot of rules, we have speedy trial, we have limits and times, but this isn't something that everybody gets to at the same time. So too often we expect things that are impossible for everybody, and flexibility is the key. And that's what folks get in recovery court that we don't always get in other court. The third thing, very short, some will understand, some will not. The more I run, the more cookie butter I get to eat. I learned that a long time ago. The fourth thing is that actions truly speak louder than words. Now, drug court is not just the participants, but it's also those who were on the drug court team. The good part about this place where I am is I'm not on the team. Once the file becomes a drug court or recovery court file, then it goes to Mr. Lilly and I get to do the fun part, as I call it. The first 18 months of the program, I rarely got the ability or had the ability to come to drug court because it meets, and I'll call it that forever, I guess, but it meets on Mondays when I cover the juvenile court docket. But in the last 18 months, it's been kind of slow over there, so I get to come a lot more often. But by doing all this extra stuff and the fun stuff, as I call it, I've gotten to know Charlie and Judge Harrell and to know the kind of people that they really are. And their examples of giving of their time and themselves for all of these endeavors has meant so much. And what I have learned is that if your leader takes an interest and shows up, it makes a difference. He shows each of these participants that he is present because he feels that they have worth and they have value. And he's just not following some script out of a bench book on how to run a recovery court. And it's not uncommon to hear the participants say, "Did you see that? The judge came and ate with us. The judge came and went swimming with us. The judge was here to hike with us." The other judges wouldn't do that in recovery court. And they always want to be in his program, not the other program. But I think the one thing that impressed upon me is one day when we were driving along in one of those conversations, one of the young ladies said, "I would rather disappoint my own family than disappoint Judge Harrell." And I think we all feel that way. Charlie has been like a father to them, and good, bad, and otherwise, that's kind of how they see him. But these young people will not always remember what they have heard or what we did with them or what events we went to. But the one thing they'll never forget is how these two men have treated them in the last 18 months. Finally, number 5, a very interesting one. On the hottest day of summer, the Mary Draper Ingalls Trail is more than 9 miles. It actually is more like 90 miles, and according to those of the recovery court who participated, it is now renamed the Mary Draper Ingalls Death March. Number 6, don't be afraid to try new things. I'm the biggest fraidy cat of all. I have never tried to do anything new in my whole life for fear of being a failure. Always have been that way, but these young ladies taught me I shouldn't be that way. They taught me that it's okay to try even if we don't succeed. They never flinched one time when I suggested that we go to a new place or try a new food or do something that they weren't familiar with. They went hiking, they went running, and they went to all kinds of new places. They taught me that life is not about perfection, but about trying and practicing to be the best that we can be every day. I tried the running program, and as Richard says, I don't really run, I kind of shuffle. But I have 7 medals from 7 5K races to show that I can still, at my age, shuffle from one end of that race to the other. And I even participated last year in the ACE race and conquered some of those obstacles. I won't say I was able to do them all, but there's a whole new world out there that I hadn't even thought about before. Number 7 is stick together and you can do anything. They support each other better than family. They're there for moral support, financial support, and they're never farther than a text message or a phone call away. I think that was never more evident than in the ACE race, because there was a physical strength and ability that they had to have that not any one of us singly had it, but they were pushing each other over obstacles and pulling each other over obstacles and prodding each other to keep on going. And that is when that I learned that Brandon is a world-class runner. I had no idea, because when we hit that water bath and Stephanie and I almost, I don't know what we did, but we both were in shock. Brandon was from the bottom of the grass to the top in 2 seconds flat. I have never seen anybody move that fast in my life. We wanted to go to the play or anywhere, it didn't matter. There were folks there to support us in our endeavors. And that's when I learned that our community is supportive of these folks. And with the support of our community, we can do anything. I asked friends and supporters for finances, and we financed the trip to the play and dinner, and we financed 4 days in Williamsburg for all 3 of the young ladies who were in the drug court program at that time. All I asked was, would you help me support this program? And everyone, even some residents that were not residents of Giles County, got out their checkbooks, and we were able to go. Number 8, you can go swimming in Williamsburg at 10 o'clock at night when it's 38 degrees outside, and you can go swimming in the outdoor pool. Enough said on that one. Number 9, you're never too old to dream big or try new things. These ladies would never let me use the excuse that I was too old or too tired or too anything. If they could do it, I could do it. That was their response. In fact, my friend Tammy Mann, who may or may not be in here, told me the other day, I still am not used to you and running in the same sentence. Even that's hard for me. I still have a few dreams and a few big prayers. I'm waiting on those answers, because if this one got answered when it was half-hearted, imagine what those prayers are that are serious. Number 10, we're all just people, and most of the time we all are just the same. We all have an important part to play in life. Under the robes, the suits, the jail uniforms, and the street clothes, we are all the same. We don't have to be defined by the decisions or choices that we make, and these folks prove that every day. Most of all, they've made me a better lawyer, because I understand that those red folders are real people, and they're not just what I can put on a piece of paper. And it helps me to understand the real impact that whatever decisions we're making in this room will have on everybody else. Number 11 is listen. If you have, these folks have great ideas, great suggestions, and more experience at this than any of us. If we only talk, we never know that. And that's the downfall of law school, because when I went to law school, they taught us to talk, not to listen. So listen to those who know better than you and learn from their experiences. I'm almost through. And number 12, you can't outgive God. When I ask in a half-hearted effort to do something to give back, I received an immeasurable result. I can't tell you how much in the last 6 months people have talked about that. I was at a seminar on Friday where people didn't even recognize who I was and had to ask. I've had folks tell me I'm a better lawyer than I've ever been, I'm a better person than I've ever been, I look better, and the doctor told me, I don't know why you keep coming, you're in better health than you've ever been. Which is great, because I just spent the emergency room Saturday night with my brother who's younger, and took my sister to the concussion clinic who's younger. And to be the older sibling in a better health is quite an accomplishment. So as I said earlier, be careful what you pray for, even if it's a half-hearted prayer. You might just get what you prayed for and so much more. I got a new look, a new life, a new health, a new church, a new Sunday school, a whole new way to look at this world. So with your help, I'm still praying some really big prayers. I'm going to tell the new folks in Recovery Court, Kaylin and Kristen and Greg and Chris, you all have really big shoes to fill after these folks graduate. So thank you, Courtney and Stephanie and Brandon. I can't tell you how much you mean to me. Thanks.
When we first started this program a couple of years ago, our first two participants were two young men. And I'm sure it was a challenge for the first young lady who joined the group to feel like she fit in completely. Despite the fact that the program is now more than 3 times the size it was in the beginning, and we're continuing to grow and hope to do that same amount of growth again over the next few months, still opportunities for new folks to feel like they're a little bit of an outsider. The ratio for that first group was a little lopsided. When Brandon joined, I know you were well outnumbered by the females in the program. But the amazing thing is, each of our 3 graduates today, Brandon, Courtney, Stephanie, each of the 3 of you has one specific thing you've done in common with the others. You have found a specific niche where you are able to be a leader and a role model. And I'm not just talking about that role model that you're providing for the people in the program, the ones who came in after you. Each of the 3 of you have found very personal ways to step up and show your friends and your families what you've accomplished. Some of us find it easy talking about that in a public setting. Some of us feel much more comfortable doing it privately. But our next speaker knows exactly how all 3 of you feel about that. I have watched him. It's been my honor and privilege to hear him share his story in small groups, with bigger audiences, but more importantly than hearing him, it's been an honor to watch him demonstrate the power of this program, especially if you take this momentum and keep moving forward. At this time, I'll ask James Johnson to come and say a few words.
All right, well, as Bobby said, my name is James Johnson. I was one of the first participants in the program, kind of pioneers, so to speak. When I first come into it, at the time of my charges, this kind of opportunity was unheard of. It offered a ray of hope into the terrible situation I got myself into. I caution that as recipients of this incredible expression of forgiveness, that we not become familiar with what has been given. The veil has been torn. There is no longer separation between ourselves and those that have been placed in a position of authority over us. For myself, this incredible paradigm shift is that one that is ever evolving with new revelation. From hiking the trails with the judge and the team to sitting in turkey blinds with Chris and Charlie. For me, the basic no principles, or the do not principles, of people, places, and things were a natural secondary consequence of my metanoia, or change of thinking, that took place in my soul, not fear. We no longer have to fear what tomorrow holds. I've heard it said that it's not a question of if, it's when a relapse occurs. I think that is both a dangerous and toxic mentality to approach this thing with. My freedom comes from the Lord, but find what works for you and run with it. Focus on the positive, the future. Have fun. Failure will happen. How that failure is handled is key. Don't dwell on it. Refocus your attention on the road ahead and make forward progress. Sir Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. I believe it. These, Charlie, Judge in particular, they're here for you. When things happen, call them. They'll dust you off and send you right back out. Even if you just want somebody to talk to, somebody to hang out with, somebody to hunt with, shoot turkeys, preferably gobblers. Preferably. I'll leave you with one last thing. With a little knowledge and a lot of fire, you can overcome anything or go anywhere. I'm telling you, the world is at your fingertips. Go get it. Thank y'all.
Going to test your memory. Think back to one of your first days in recovery court. Judge Harold gave you something to hang on to and use. Actually, there were two things. Do you remember what they were? Journal and calendar. We tried at the very beginning to keep you busy. I think we succeeded. You kept an awful lot of stuff on your plate. Or at least for this demonstration in your cup. Judge Harrell emphasized if you weren't going to be working 40 hours a week, you were at least going to do some community service for 40 hours a week, right? He gave you that calendar because you needed to keep up with appointments. You needed to keep up with your treatment schedule. You needed to keep up with your meetings with probation officers. You needed to keep up with your court dates. You needed to keep up with all kinds of new commitments. And he also told you in your very first day, there were 3 basic principles that you had to accept and abide by for this program. If you were going to participate in drug court, the structure that we were providing for you was that number 1, required honesty. You had to be honest with yourselves, with the court, with your family. Everything else started there. Second piece of the puzzle, you had to have a genuine desire to change. And finally, the third piece, you had to be willing to do the work. We knew it wasn't going to happen overnight. But if you take that structure, those 3 pieces, we would help you keep everything else in balance. Now, he also told you that we were going to be, I believe the words he used were all up in your business. Right? In fact, Charlie actually kept you on a pretty short leash. And you may not have appreciated it at the time or really believed that it would work. But if you took those principles and followed the guidance, the structure of this program helped you keep everything else in balance. You went through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we piled more on your plate. Things got a little more challenging. Sometimes things got a little rockier. Right now, those front row seats aren't looking so good, are they? But this is what the program was all about. We kept you moving. And as I said earlier, this isn't the end. Graduation is the time for you to decide how you are going to keep the momentum going. When you finish with this program, it's up to you to keep all of those things in balance. But you got through phase one, all the way to graduation. And now the challenge, as I said, is to come full circle. Through phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four, with your family, at home, at work, in life. Whatever you choose to accomplish now, you have the tools, and we salute you and congratulate you. Well done. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the handler who had the other end of that leash. Charlie Mullins has been an important part of our team, and he has been a crucial part of each of your journeys. Charlie?
I've had the honor to be able to announce our candidates, or not our candidates, but our graduates today. No particular order. I chose the first one because she'd been in the program probably the longest. 24 months ago, she started the Recovery Court program. And for the first month and a half or two, I really didn't know whether or not I was going to make it. Because she had a harder head than I. We struggled. We had some pitfalls and tripped and fell a time or two. And we learned. She taught me many things. Some I cannot say in a public setting, nor in the presence of my beautiful wife. One of the trademark sayings that I have at the end of a phone conversation is that, hey, I'm bored, I gotta go, and stay and say bye. She taught me that. So that's where it come from, Dolores. In addition to that, throughout our time and the difficulties that we had, I feel like that our program probably benefited her more than anyone that I've seen come through our program. But in turn, I believe that she's impacted our team. As far as an individual, I think she has impacted our team as much as any one person. Typically when there's a law or regulation or policy or something, you sometimes can establish a name with that because Billy Bob did it, you guys now have to follow that. So a lot of the Charlie-isms and rules that we have in the program is as a result of this young lady. So she helped develop it. It was probably 6 months into the program and we were still butting heads often. The judge told her of a situation to where she needed to surrender to the program, to have faith and trust in it, that we had trust in her and that she needed to submit to the program and buy into it. And when she made that decision, she became a new person. She moved forward and clearly become a leader in with our participants. Every girl that's been in the program has been best friends with her at some point during the process. You talk about the situation with Miss Sifford and the Williamsburg trip. We were very apprehensive to send our crew across the state. So I had a private meeting with this young lady and I appointed her as the captain over the other participants and also over Miss Sifford. She was required to report into me on a daily basis and give me an update, and she had the speech that if something happened, it would be her head. She was chosen because she's a leader. And she led that team, and she's led our team here, as well as her participants. She's getting ready to start a new chapter in life. I was in South Carolina when she made the call. I knew, and I had prayed this opportunity for her to step forward. And I knew before she told me what was about to happen. She had become pregnant, and with the reveal party last week, has a boy and a girl coming, which I will be there the day they come home. She has become a great friend and an ally that supported me and has had my back in situations in which it was needed. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce my friend, Courtney Snyder. Well, we can address the crew.
Not ready for this.
Don't use my name.
So I had no idea that I was going to have to do this. So, then I'm crying my eyes out right now. After he told me very specifically, we got to crying out this morning. I had no genuine hope for myself when I started this. I was going to fake it till I made it, be done. And somewhere in the process of that, something changed and I wanted a better life. I didn't want to just continue to survive, I wanted to live. And that's where I'm at now. I have a life that I'm thankful for. And I have people in my life that support me that I never thought that I would have. I've had a lot of huge bumps in the road to get to where I am. But I finally made it, and I never thought that I would make it. I figured I would go for a little while, and then it wouldn't work out. So, I wouldn't be here where I am without all of the people that are here, without my family, without the team, without Charlie, without the other participants. I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm just so thankful that I made it this far because I never thought that it was an option. But I'm here. I don't really know what else to say. You didn't tell me I had to do this.
Well, on behalf of Giles County, we'd like to present you with a gift.
Okay.
We have a free membership at our wellness center for 6 months and also a keychain with the Serenity Prayer on the back. Participant has been in the program the next longest period. When her name was mentioned and her situation and living arrangements and location was mentioned, I was a naysayer. I really felt like it was going to be very difficult on the county, primarily the compliance officer, to be able to closely monitor this situation because you go to the end of the county and take a left and cross the tracks, and that's where she lives. But I also knew her grandparents and had a history with them, and I knew they were straight-laced, and I knew the key to my success as managing a compliance officer was to deputize a grandma. And it was shortly after, probably 6 months into this process, I realized that I had accomplished and I had one of the best compliance officers available. Her grandparents are here, her parents are here today, and the situation, she had a 9 o'clock curfew, and she was out hanging out with Miss Sifford, and she was going to be about 15 minutes late for curfew. So she called me and we discussed it and we were good with it. And she was on her way home. Well, at 9:03, I received a call from her grandparents that she wasn't home and that they were calling the sheriff's office because she had a curfew. And I said, hold on. She's out with the assistant Commonwealth attorney. And Mr. Harlan says, I don't care who she's with. She's supposed to be home at 9 o'clock. So I got off the phone and called the sheriff's office and explained to them that everything was fine, that she was on her way. She turned her glimpse on and I was monitoring her traffic, but I knew then there would be no need to do any more home inspections there, that I had that covered. So thank you for what you've done. She would not be here without you. But there's also other families that I want to recognize because the task in which they did is one of the hardest traits in humankind, and that's forgiveness. You would not be here today without the forgiveness of your uncle and your aunt and how they stood by you and come through this process with us. I truly admire you for that. But I also want to congratulate someone else in her recovery, and that's her. She has jumped every hoop we've asked her to jump. She hasn't sassed. She hasn't talked back. She's probably been one of the more pleasant participants I've ever had. And that I didn't know the old candidate, but I've learned to love the new one. She's come a long ways. Yesterday, or let's go back to last week, she stood in the podium of my church and asked a congregation of 500 people to help with a give back project that she had created concerning getting personal hygiene kits for people that are being released from jail. She asked for 20. Yesterday she picked up 20. In addition to that, I listened to her beautiful voice sing I'll Fly Away, standing beside our current sheriff. I would have never dreamed, nor would she 18 months ago, that she would be in church as she was singing and that she is an instrument part. I have an associate pastor's wife that has fell in love with her, and you have made tremendous impact on our community. And I want to thank you for being the ambassador to this program and sharing your love for the Lord as well as your spirit of recovery to our community. You have impacted every person in this room, and thank you for impacting my church. It is my honor to introduce my sister in Christ, Stephanie Colorado. Carry on.
Good afternoon. I don't really have a whole lot to say, but I am very full of gratitude. I had waited and waited for this program, having no idea what I was getting into. And I thank Charlie mostly because he had spoke to me earlier yesterday, I believe, and said that had he not known my grandparents, I may have not got this chance. And I'm thoroughly grateful for that because there's been moments talking with Ms. Sifford that she has said that a person with violent felonies cannot be a member of this program. But here I am. That forgiveness that my uncle had forgiven me for was a crime that I forever had regretted, but I've been thankful for because it got me to where I am today. Today I'm a person who cares for my family, a person that cares for my community, and a person that loves the Lord and does as He asks. My goal to continue on is to serve in any way possible to this community, to my people, and to the people who suffer from this disease. Because it is taking lives today, tomorrow, and it will continue to until someone stands up and decides that it's time to care for these people rather than to shun them into the dark corners they do not choose of their own. I was that person in that dark corner. Mr. Gautier over there had found me and saved my life by taking me to jail. That was my blessing. That was my prayer that had been answered. And it got to me to where I am today, to where I can influence people. I can influence myself and be a strong person that is ready to take on this world that is not so kind, but maybe if we have more of people who wanted to spread kindness, we can make this world a better place. And I thank everyone in this room, the judge, the whole team, because had it not been for their support and their dedication towards me and my recovery, I would not be here today. I would probably either be in a jail, an institutional. I would be in my grave. And I'm thoroughly grateful for all that they've given me today and what they will continue to give me throughout my lifetime. That's all.
Only leaves one. No surprise. This next individual has some unique qualities and has made his impact on the team and myself as well. You cannot think of Brandon without thinking of talking, period. I mean, anybody in this room has ever met him knows that. He is a subject matter on a lot of different subjects. Just ask him. He's a subject matter expert, might I say. With that said, I remember early on in the process that there was a situation arise, and his tone and his level of delivery might have been harsh. So I take it upon myself to counsel him, knowing someone that's direct and pointed as well, talking to someone who's direct and pointed as well, how we need to be able to communicate and get our point across without, smacking someone in the face. And he told me a saying that I'll never forget. The subject matter was about addiction. And he says, "Charlie, we're not playing with Matchbox and Legos. This is a serious matter." And then that's the way he is. His passion about recovery is as strong as anyone I've ever been around. So with that passion comes maybe some flaws, but he's also very driven. He has a heart to give back into that process. So I tell you, my friend, that we need to be more diplomatic in our presentation sometimes. But I don't want you to lose your passion for what drives you. The second matter that you have to think of, at least when I think of Brandon, is about making money. He has always got a scheme for something. He's got stuff on Facebook, he's got stuff on eBay, he goes to yard sales, all kinds of stuff. He even goes to flea markets. He's gotten permission to go to a flea market in North Carolina. And I happened to be down there with my family. My wife was not in support of this thought process, but I said, he's a half a mile, he's about 5 miles away from us. I'm going to go do a compliance inspection on him in North Carolina. So 10 minutes after he gets permission to go to this flea market, here's Charlie standing watching him. And he looks up from the table and sees Charlie. I made a believer out of him, that I was going to be monitoring him. But with that said, he has a trademark sentence, a trademark business model about selling stuff. He says, "Now I'll give you that, what I got in it." Okay? I've heard it several times. In fact, I fell for it a time or two. He told me just day before yesterday that after you say that in a sale, and if you get even a little nibble, all you got to do is set the drag because you got it. So he's always selling stuff and is always making money. I think he might have gotten Tommy a time or two, if my memory serves me correct. But I look forward to the next chapter of life with this young man. He has impacted me, and I've learned more from him than he's learned from me. When it comes to words, he taught me something that I apply daily to my life and to the evaluation of other people. He said, you make sure that their actions line up with their words. Because I've consulted with him concerning a family member and a schoolmate that I had that's fighting with issues, and that's the advice he gave me. So it's my honor to introduce my friend, Brandon Williams.
Well, I guess I'll start off by saying a couple of them said they didn't have much to say or they didn't know. I knew this was going to happen. I'm prepared. I have a speech. And the thing I know about myself is I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. I really don't. But this is what I know about my life today, as what Charlie was talking about. The biggest part is actions. I could stand up here and tell everybody, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I always use the example of, I could have came here the last 18 months and stood before the judge and said, you know what? I'm going to start going to the gym. And then they make it mandatory. You go to the gym 3 days a week. Well, I can go there and I can sit. And I can just watch what everybody's doing. And they say, are you going to the gym? Yep, I'm going. You get anything out of it? Absolutely. But there's a period in there where somebody can look and see, okay, well, is this really working? What I know about recovery is there's a point that comes to where you don't have to speak. People can see what's really going on in your life. And I don't know how to completely describe my tenure in the recovery court program. I will tell you in the beginning that it was a thought process, because an addict can still have the mentality of not trusting people. I'm not going to open up. Well, I'm only going to do this because you tell me to. But I don't judge people by what they say. I don't judge people, period, but I judge their character. And when I start seeing people say, look, I'm going to help you, I'm going to help you, and you start seeing that, people go out of their way, it's very welcoming.
Long one today, maybe not quite as long as some of the other speeches. This is a poem you'll recognize, I feel sure, from the great Rudyard Kipling. He said, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, and if you can bear to hear the truth you've just spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things that you gave your life to broken, and stoop then to build them again with worn out tools. And if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all on one turn of the pitch and toss, and lose, but then start again at the beginning and never breathe a word of your loss. And if you can force your heart and your nerve and your sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and to hold on when there's nothing left to hold on to except the will that says, hold on. And if you can talk with crowds, but keep your virtue, or walk with kings, but not lose your common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count to you, but none too much, and if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds of the distance run, then yours is the earth and everything that's in it. Congratulations, you three. Well done. So, this being Giles County, food is first and foremost, and as I understand, there's quite a spread laid out for us. And so, I invite all of you to stick around, please. Congratulate these folks. Thank you for being here. Your presence made this special. We're in recess.